Good evening and welcome on the occasion of this third launch of the year for Arianespace and Ariane 5. Tonight we're going to inject into orbit two long-standing customers of Arianespace. We have the ST-2 satellite, and ST-2 will be taking over from ST-1 that we launched over 10 years ago. And then GSAT-8, an Indian satellite. And as you know, this year we're celebrating the 30th anniversary of the first launch of an Indian satellite by Ariane. That was back in 1981. Since then, we've launched many Indian satellites, and we intend to continue doing so going forward. So the start of the year has been very busy for Arianespace, as today we're on the 20th of May, and last year at the same time we were still waiting to launch with Ariane 5. But this year we're on to our third launch, and we will keep up the pace, as by the end of the year we're anticipating another 3 launches of Ariane 5. So you will be watching on another 3 occasions launches such as this one there, ready for liftoff on its launch pad. And we're also looking forward to the first Soyuz launch, as 2 launches of Soyuz are anticipated this year from Guyana, from this brilliant facilities which we were delivered a few days ago by the ECA. This launch facility has been built here by ECA, the CNES and our Russian partners, and then towards the end of this year we'll have the first flight of Vega. But without further ado, let's watch this new launch of Ariane 5, ECA, ST-2, GSAT-8.
ST-2, GSAT-8.
Greetings, everybody, wherever you may be, and welcome once again to Kourou, the home of the Ariane family, for tonight's live broadcast of Arianespace flight number 202. Joshua Jample here. It's the third launch of the year, as Jean-Yves Le Gall mentioned, but it's also the 58th Ariane 5 to be launched since the program began, and the 202nd Ariane in all. A double launch, passengers for Asia and India tonight, some old friends, and we're about 7 minutes and some seconds down to liftoff. And you're going to be hearing from this man in just a moment, the Range Operations Manager, calling out the entry into the final sequences.
Top H0-7 minutes.
The DDO has just called out our beginning the 7-minute mark. That's a milestone. These are the final moments of the final countdowns called the synchronized sequence. Computers are taking over. We like to set the scene by introducing some of the major players making the mission possible tonight. In the Arianespace Flight Directorate, you saw Jean-Yves Le Gall, Patrick Loire, who's head of Arianespace in Kourou, and Edouard Perez, who's the top technical person on the Ariane team. These gentlemen on the phones with their teams in Kourou and around the world. We're in the Jupiter building. You can see the technical people. Behind them are the invited guests tonight. Some other dramatis personae tonight, the 2 Terrys, Terry Wilmart of Arianespace, Mission Director, sitting alongside Terry Vallée, the Range Operations Manager, also called the DDO. It's his voice that you hear calling out the milestones for the rest of the mission. The Arianespace Mission Director, a daily coordinator with the satellites and their campaigns. On the left, the green status panels. This is a summary of the different launch services provided by the base. It's a go, no-go, red-green resume sent in here by all the offices across the broad base here. And it comes into Jupiter, all this information, which is why we call Jupiter the nerve center of the space base. You can see logistics and safety and weather. I'm reading down from the French here. Telemetry, and, of course, the launcher and the 2 satellites. Another place that's very active at this hour is up by the Launch Management Center. It's about 12 or 13 kilometers closer to the pad to the northeast from where we are here in Jupiter. And these are 3 teams that are coordinating the launcher campaign and the countdown under the direction of the gentleman you just saw called the Co-L. He's the Launch Operations Manager. Some of the teams are guaranteeing the flight readiness, signing off on the OK to fly. They have earlier signed off on the OK to transfer the fully equipped Ariane from the final assembly building out to the launch base. That happened yesterday. There's also a quality team independent from those. There's 150, 200 people up there working now, and we need all these people because, as you can imagine, Ariane 5 is a complex machine. A million things have to function perfectly, and of course Ariane Space will only give the green light if they are functioning perfectly. The Ariane Space point person here for one of the satellites for ST-2, Jérôme Rive. He follows all the activities from contract to satellite separation. With him is the satellite program director for ST-2, the DMS they call it, a technical person responsible for the technology, deciding on if their satellite is ready for launch following the campaign and its preparation as the satellite manager. We're going to take a look under the fairing now at those two satellites. You see the logos, the traditional logos of the satellite builders and operators on the outside. Inside the fairing on the top is ST-2, the heavier satellite, 5 tons. The heavier satellite is often separated first, but not always. Tonight it is the case. Underneath that there is a black bell-shaped structure which we'll be looking at a little later more closely. This is called the Silda. This is a carrying structure which allows us to take the second passenger. And underneath that Silda structure is our second passenger, the lighter, 3 tons, GSAT. Satellites are placed in this position in the final assembly building, one of the main facilities here. When they're kept at 20 degrees by an air conditioning system, and on board they're kept cool at 14 degrees system. Our second customer, Christophe Bardou, saluting the camera there, Ariane Spaceman, the program director, with Dr. Alex of ISRO. Program director basically on the day-to-day basis, meeting with his customers, reviewing the status of their satellites. If you're not familiar with the launcher, a thumbnail sketch, she stands about 50 meters tall. She's in 2 halves. They call them composites here. There's a lower and an upper. The lower composite consisting of the main stage and the 2 boosters on either side. You can see that they both stand 30 to 31 meters tall. And then the upper stage, the upper composite, consisting of the upper stage and the vehicle equipment bay where the computers are, the launcher's brains and the navigation systems and the guidance systems. And at the very top, the fairing, which you can see there with the logos. And inside the fairing are the 2 satellites. 2 minutes until launch now. We're going to zoom in on the upper stage. You see the yellow bars going across the center there. We're going to get a close-up of those in just a minute. These are the cryogenic feeder arms, the propellant feeder arms going into the upper stage. There's a split-screen image of it. Liquid hydrogen on the left, liquid oxygen on the right. That's the cryogenic fuel, the mix of those. Why do we do this? The upper stage needs to be refilled up until the very last minute because the cold propellant which we're using, and by cold I mean liquid oxygen minus 160 degrees, liquid hydrogen minus 240 degrees, that's cold, that in this heat, you can imagine, needs constant topping up. Those of you here tonight in French Guiana, or if you have been here, you know how hot it can be here, constantly evaporates in this heat, so we top up right until 5 seconds before liftoff. You can see on the back of the screen the invited guests going to go out on the terraces on either side here and watch the liftoff. The DDO again will call out the 1 minute mark, and we'll be into the
H0-1 minute.
And we're into the final 60 seconds before liftoff. Ariane getting ready. Now here's what to watch for with the ignition sequence. You'll hear the DDO call out the 10, 9, 8, 10, 9, 8, and when he gets to 5, which is 5, watch those yellow bars at the center there. They have to pull back. Those cryogenic arms will swing back, and that gets the whole thing started. At 0, the DDO will call out allumage, in French means ignition, and the main engine will light, but we don't lift off yet. Count to 7. For 7 full seconds, the computers are checking out the performance in the main engine while it's still burning on the pad. If all is well, then and only then, the computers give the order to light the 2 boosters, which is the point of no return. And we will be off. So watch for all that. Enjoy the liftoff. We'll be back shortly afterward.
Attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage Vulcain, décollage.
Well, much better visibility than we dared hope for just maybe even an hour ago. It's been raining and overcast most of the day, but some fine shots at liftoff of Ariane, roaring off the pad into the gray, trailing the gold plumes as she makes her way up into the sky over French Guiana. She took off right on time at 17:38 local time. These fine shots always very impressive. 775 tons at liftoff as Ariane leaves the ground. Most of that is fuel, as you will see. She'll start to shed that. The DDO is saying that everything is fine on board. Right now, she's burning 5 tons of fuel per second, 2.5 tons in each booster burning. That represents the major part of the boost. It's 90% of the acceleration and the power at liftoff. The core stage burning another 300 kilos per second. Roughly add up that altogether, it's roughly the equivalent to a dozen Airbuses. Ariane following now the program in the onboard computer, which has been installed, giving all the orders, including stage separations, which we'll begin to see just very shortly. We're in the first of 4 flight phases. The first 3 are powered. The last is not. We'll describe each in turn, so you can follow Ariane as she heads across the Atlantic, where she'll separate the 2 passengers over Africa. Right now, the first phase, the single core stage engine, it's called Vulcan, and the 2 boosters are burning. The boosters will burn for just over 2 minutes each, and in a few seconds you should hear the DDO call out their separation, and that comes right on time at about 68 kilometers up. This is what it looks like. There's another booster out of the camera range, but the 2 of them separated, delivering, they've done their job. They fall 500 kilometers away from shore in a protected area. French Guiana chosen partially for its large opening on the water, low risk for the nearby population. We're in the second flight phase now, the boosters having done their job. The core engine burning alone. It'll burn for about 9 minutes. The fairing separation is coming up next, and the DDO will be calling out that one. And there it is, at 107 roughly kilometers. The fairing is in 2 halves. The other half is out of camera range on the other side. Blown away is the term because they're separated by 2 pyrotechnic cords. One is horizontal and one is vertical. The fairing is dropped now because it's done its job. What it does is protect the passengers from the vibrations and friction in the Earth's atmosphere. And above 100 kilometers, we don't need it anymore, so we can get rid of the dead weight. It's a ton or 2. On the bottom left of your screen, the bottom 2 lines, you see kilometers. That's our altitude, 132. And the speed below that, kilometers per second. We're approaching 2.5 kilometers per second. The speed we need to inject satellites, roughly 9 kilometers per second, so keep your eyes on that. Back with more of the mission. Don't go away, but for right now, the latest news from Ariane Space. On April 22nd, Ariane successfully lifted 2 new satellites into orbit, GSAT-1A for the United Arab Emirates and Intelsat New Dawn for Africa. It was a record for total mass at liftoff for the European launcher, 10 tons.
The new Vega launcher underwent combined tests, both electrical and mechanical, at the space base last month. A full-size mock-up of the vehicle, without the fluids, was erected on its new launch pad. Tests of the fluids of the 4th stage are set for June.
On April 27th, Ariane Space signed to launch ABS-2 for Asia Broadcast Satellite. Weighing over 6 tons, ABS-2 will be lifted in 2013. At the European Union-Japan Business Roundtable in Rome last month, Jean-Yves Le Gall spoke to 50 decision-makers on the importance of reducing barriers to Europe.